Hi. Hi again. Okay. Welcome back to Eccentric People. Now I have two strange stories about the strange things I've done, well-meaning but strange, and I'm going to have to tell them pretty fast to fit it into 10 minutes because when the video goes over 10 minutes, it don't load sometimes. Okay, so this time on Eccentric People. Okay, there was a house that I rented. There was a house that I was renting from, we were renting from a landlord that was basically a slumlord. So when you're renting from a slumlord, you have to do some pretty drastic, strange things sometimes, and especially when you're on a tight income. Now, I left out one thing. When you're living in a strange neighborhood, and I'm not talking about good strange, I'm talking about dangerous strange. And when you're on a tight budget, sometimes you have to do some strange things. Okay, I usually keep my bills paid up well, but this time, just things were coming up. And it was like going towards winter, and I had to keep my family warm. And although I usually keep my bills paid up, this time everything was hitting me all at once. My gas bill was in disconnect. Now, I also did this strange thing I'm going to tell you about because in this crazy neighborhood, we were having people a couple different times, cops would come to our door and say, hey, we're looking for someone, and they just went into your backyard. So, because they were running from the cops. So, because of that reason, and because I was thinking, okay, I can't pay the gas bill this month, and I'm going to be in disconnect. Too many things are piling up on me. Now, how can I keep them from shutting my gas off? So, I went out to the gate. We had a fence, and there was two ways that it opened, from the side and from the backyard. So, I go outside and I was thinking what to do. I didn't have a lock or money to buy a lock. So I go and I hunt around the property, and I end up finding some wire because this was an old rundown house. I found some wire. I don't know what it was, but it was thick wire. And I took it and I wrapped it round and round and round every place on that fence I could find, from both gates that opened, backyard and the side. I wound that sucker round and round and round. And let me tell you what, I'm a good Girl Scout. I know how to tie a knot, even with thick wire. Oh, let me tell you, nobody could have gotten that undone, because when they looked at it, they would have been like, oh my God, what has she done? She's got this thing wound around here and there, and I can't even tell what's going on. Well, folks, that's the thing. If you want to keep somebody from getting in and on your property on a low budget with a wire, think. Wind that sucker round and round and in and out every nook and cranny of that fence that you can find. And listen, they would have had a good pair of wire cutters. And even then, it was wound oh God, you guys, it was wound so much around different places on that fence, around this little, it's hard to describe. But I would wind it around one place, then I'd find another little place to wind it around and around. Then I would bring it around another way. Then I'd tie it, thick wire tied. It was bendable, but it was tieable. And I would tie another knot. Then I would wind it in and out another hole on that fence. And then I would wind it around a different direction on the fence. And then I would tie another knot and another. Okay. By the time the gas company come to shut me off, I thought I need to keep them out of my property until I can pay the bill. And it kept them off of the property until I could pay the bill. You know why? Because the place to turn the gas off was located in the backyard. And then there was an indoor porch that was locked, so that I didn't even have to be bothered with them banging on or knocking on the door because I wouldn't be able to hear it because you have to get in that indoor built-in porch first. So, because I did this, they couldn't shut the gas off because they couldn't get inside the fence. The only way they'd be able to get back there is if they could get me to come to the door, and I'm not going to do that, am I? So they just left a note on the door saying, sorry, we missed you. And I'm like, I'm not sorry I missed you. But it was kind of a strange thing to do, but let me tell you, strange things work when you're trying to keep your family warm. Okay, the next thing I did is a little bit weirder because this is Eccentric People, and it's all about telling strange things that you as an eccentric and weird person have done. And anything you all have done that people would consider strange, I want you to type it to me in the comments section, because this is all about laughing about our weird side. Okay, this next thing I did that was strange. Now, this was even a bit stranger. But keep in mind, it was a crazy neighborhood that I lived in, that we lived in, me and my kids. And there was these neighbors. There was these neighbors that I swear, every time I would go out in the backyard, and I had my kids to say the same things, these people would come out, and they were always there when we'd come out. They would try to see into our yard. I'm not kidding you. One neighbor was even trying to chop down one of our trees one time. Well, I didn't want them seeing into our yard. Now, this is going to be really weird. I didn't have money to build a fence so that these people could not see into our yard. So I took some Christmas lights that were non-usable, unplugged them. They had gone out anyway. And I strung that wire from the back door all the way out to the shed. And I strung it tight and up high. I worked so hard at it. I got a chair to climb up and everything. And I took that sucker and I tied it tight enough that I could put everything on it I could think of. I took blankets. I took old clothes that we wasn't wearing anymore, that had worn out. And I made a homemade fence, a poor man's homemade fence, out of nothing but blankets and old clothes that we weren't wearing anymore, that had worn out. And I covered so much area on both sides of that yard, and it was high up. I had to climb, and I would tie it. I tied it from the door to the shed, and it took me a long time, but I worked on it every day, and I made my own homemade fence. And it was weird looking. It just looked like a great big clothesline with everything hung on it, and it worked. I tell you, my homemade fence made of blankets and old clothes was every bit as good as a fence that you would pay somebody to install in your backyard. And nobody could see in there. But if you would have seen it, you know, and didn't know why it was up, you would have said, okay, she must be out of her mind. What is that? So, that's another weird story. Let's see, I'm going on 9 minutes, a little over. That's another weird story. But sometimes weird, eccentric people are good in are good in a bad situation, because weird ideas work. If you're ever in a jam, folks, let me tell you, it's those crazy ideas that will save you. You know, if you have to do it, you have to do it. You know, it's those crazy ideas that work. So just remember, eccentrics, sometimes we may be weird but brilliant. You do what you have to do for your family at the time. Yeah, I'm not a person that goes around not thinking rationally or not paying their bills all the time, but you can occasionally get in a situation where you got to use your weird, eccentric mind for your family and for yourself. So that's another episode of Weird and Eccentric People's Talk and Variety Show. Please type in the section and tell me, have you ever had to do something weird for survival? God bless and peace out. And tell me your stories. Peace and love. See you on the next show. Bye.